The Powerhouse Women community is built on the belief that you are not meant to do business or life alone. But where do you meet and connect with like-minded women who will support you and have your back while you're chasing big ideas? How do you build a community that really gets you? If you've ever wondered these things, well then this episode is for you. I'm sharing 3 tips for how you can cultivate the most badass, supportive group of female friends. Welcome back to the show. I am answering really what I think is one of the most frequently asked questions in our community, especially from women who are newer to the Powerhouse Women community and really looking to connect with others who are like-minded, who are also chasing really big ideas. So yes, the quick answer, this could really be a 30-second podcast. I could say, where do you connect with badass female friends? In this community. But I know that it's not always just as easy as that simple answer. And there are a few things that I think aren't talked about enough that really contribute to how supported you feel and to how many of those deep and meaningful relationships you have in your life, especially with girlfriends. So I'm going to share with you 3 of the things that I've done to cultivate this kind of community around me. But before I do, I really want you to know that this is something that I started a decade ago. And it really has taken time. It's taken even trial and error, of finding women who I thought were exactly the type of person that I wanted to be really close with, only to realize that maybe that wasn't the case. So if you have been hurt, if you have been disappointed by female friends before, just know that just because something has happened in the past doesn't mean it's destined to repeat itself. Sometimes we need to look at ourselves and look at maybe if there's patterns or habits that were contributing to making those relationships go that way, then yes, we need to address those. But I promise you, there are women out there, a whole lot of them, that want to connect and really want to cultivate those deep and lasting friendships, the kind where, you kind of change the world together while also drinking your favorite bubbly beverage, right? That's my kind of dream female friendship. But when I look back at the journey over the last decade of finding and really establishing a relationship with the women who now are such a big part of my journey, here are the biggest things that have contributed to those friendships being as special as they are. The first one, and I think this is really important to talk about now in the season that we're in, where the world just looks a whole lot different. Connection looks a lot different. The first one is to put yourself in the places where the kind of women who you want to connect with are hanging out. No matter how scary that feels, no matter how much of an introvert you are or how intimidating it can feel to walk into a physical room full of powerful women, or put yourself into digital communities where those women are hanging out. You need to realize that the people that you want to connect with are not going to show up on your doorstep. They're not going to come and knock on your door and say, hey, I heard you were looking to connect with some like-minded women. I thought I'd just come over and introduce myself. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. And right now, where connection does look different, we have to be more intentional, right? We have to put ourselves out there a little bit more. But when I look back at the women who have, really become a big part of my life, I've met those type of people in mastermind groups that I've joined, where you're bought in, you're invested in yourself at the same level as these other women are. I've met them through networking events, and that does include online networking events, right? There's plenty of opportunities to connect. We host connection calls every once in a while. We were hosting them every week, but now we had to wrap that series up because we're working on some other big projects, but we are still creating at least once a month an opportunity for you to digitally plug in and connect with like-minded women. So if you're not already on our email list, side note, go to our website and join, because that is how you find out about those free trainings and opportunities to connect. But then I've also met a lot of incredible women through social media. It sounds so silly, but especially in the day and age that we're living in, we're on social media so much more. And if you really want to cultivate a social media feed that inspires you and doesn't bring you down or, feel really tense because everyone's sharing their opinions, then you want to be really intentional with who you're following and who you're connecting with. But no person is unreachable. And I'm going to talk about this in a moment. There's no one that you can't reach out to, send a DM, find out what's important to them. And if there's any crossover where it makes sense for you to connect. Sometimes you can just reach out and say like, hey, I'd love, it seems like we have a like-minded mission. I would love to connect maybe over a 30-minute Zoom coffee date. But if you're reaching out to women who maybe are, a little in a season where they're a little busier or they're working on some big things, they may not have time to connect in that way, but find out where they are connecting. How can you put yourself in the places where maybe they're showing up and spending their time? Are they in Facebook groups? Are they a part of a community? And find out how you can show up in their atmosphere and establish that relationship. Start to form that real relationship. And a lot of the women who are part of my girl gang, if you will, are women that I've connected with just through social media. Right? Just through starting a DM exchange, supporting one another's posts and content. And then it eventually led to a real life friendship. So number one is you have to put yourself in the kind of places that the women you want to meet and the kind of women you want to meet are spending their time, even though it takes a little bit more intentionality right now. So I don't want to hear that you're over Zoom calls, you're, just like burnt out. If you really want to connect, then that can't be an excuse. You've got to find a way to make it work for you. Okay, the second one, and this is huge. I think these last two are all really the internal piece. And again, I can tell you all the things that I've done to connect with other women, but truly the reason I have the deep friendships that I have today is because I've done a whole lot, more than you can ever imagine, internal work on myself. So number two is don't put anyone, any person on a pedestal. I think sometimes, especially if we're forced to connect more digitally on social media, we're seeing the highlight reel of someone's life and we're seeing the best of them. And then comparing that to the blooper reel of our own life. And it's very easy to feel like, gosh, that person would never want to connect with me. I don't have anything to offer them. And while it may be true, maybe that person is, while it may be true that the person you're wanting to connect with is a few steps ahead of you, that doesn't mean that they're better than you, that they wouldn't take the time to connect with you, or that you don't have anything to offer. So especially if you're looking to connect with women who are a step or 2 or 10 ahead of where you're at, let me tell you, I'm going to give you like the truth right here of how you can show up on the radar of those type of women. It starts with, though, not putting anyone on a pedestal. Putting someone on a pedestal is like saying, you're better than me because you've done this and I'm not as good. What you can have, and what I think is really healthy to have, is respect for what another person has created. So if you're looking up to a woman who's created something really epic and you know that just being in her energy would be such a blessing to you, would force you to level up, then that's different than thinking, well, that person's untouchable, I could never become friends with them. So I want to be really clear. It's different to have a healthy respect for something another woman has created and realize that maybe you're going to have to work a little harder and continue on your own path until you get to the point where, you're collaborating on a high level with someone who's just put in more work. But you don't want to put anyone on a pedestal. Even, Beyonce is a human being at the end of the day. Although we're, still not sure. She may actually not be human. She may be superhuman. So maybe that's not a good example, right? But anyone that you look up to, that you want to connect with, there is something that they care about that you could find a way to add value to their life. So a great way to start putting yourself on the radar of someone who maybe is a step or 2 or 10 ahead of where you are right now. Number 1, buy their programs. Join their courses. Show up on their radar by investing in the work that they've put in to the things they're putting out into the world. It sounds silly, but those are women that I get to know really well on a personal level, are the ones who've joined our mastermind, the ones who've joined our business mentorship 12-week program. I recognize them because I'm working in smaller communities with them. And I know that that's true for women that, used to be kind of like on my goal list of people to collaborate with that are now friends of mine. But for years, I showed up and I served at their events. I bought their programs. I surrounded myself with their community without ever expecting anything. But I put myself in a position to be undeniable to the people that I knew I resonated with and that I wanted to learn from. So don't put people on a pedestal, have respect for what they've created. And one of the best ways to put yourself on the radar of someone that you really want to collaborate with in the future is to invest in the things that they're putting out into the world and think about how can you add value back to them. And then this last one is probably the most important of all. I said that these two, the second and third, were going to be mostly internal work. And this one is purely internal. That if we really want to cultivate the kind of community that's going to support you, show up and cheer you on, that really gets you, you have to first do the internal work to figure out what has kept you from connecting on a deep level with other women in the past. For me, I've dealt with feelings of jealousy, feelings of comparison, of envy, looking at another woman and thinking, gosh, I wish I had her life. I wish I had her success. And I'm just being totally honest with you to give you permission to also be 100% radically honest, because we can't actually break through any of those feelings or recognize them when they show up, because they still will, if we're not being honest, right? It doesn't make you a bad person that you sometimes feel envious or compare yourself to others. It shows you, it shines a light on an area for you to grow. So by doing the internal work, right? Looking at, why do certain things trigger you? Why do certain people trigger you? Is it a story of not enough? Is it a story of like you're not worthy of those kind of friendships? Have you been burned in the past and now do you just live inside this context that all women are competitive or all women are backstabbing? And if you try to forge relationships while listening to and believing an old story, you're just going to keep getting more of the same. So this is an opportunity to be honest with yourself. What are some of the beliefs that you have about why you can't connect with women, why you haven't found those friendships? Do some journaling around it to identify, maybe there's even something that's hidden from your view. It's kind of a blind spot. And you don't realize that even though you desperately want to connect and form relationships with other people, it's keeping you from doing that. It's keeping you from opening yourself up, being vulnerable, and allowing those next level kind of friendships to enter your life. So I want to know if you listened to this and got something new, if you realize that, oh wow, I didn't even think about the fact that I'm putting that person on a pedestal, or, I didn't realize that I'm kind of living this hermit life in quarantine and not going out and putting myself intentionally around people that could be those next level friendships. I want to hear what really stood out about today's conversation to you and what your next step is in cultivating these kind of next level friendships. So you can connect with us on social media. All of our links are posted in the show notes. You can text, if you're not part of our Text Girl Gang, the number to text this message to, and I'll tell you exactly what to do. You just text the word mentor to this number, 602-536-7828. 29. It's also in the show notes for you. And if you text me the word mentor, it automatically puts you on our list, our text girl gang, to get business and mindset tips for free sent to your phone every single week. But then I really want to know, so this is actually, people always ask, like, is this actually your number? Yes, it's really my text number. You can't call me on that number. It's different than my personal cell phone, but it is my text number. It comes right to my phone. I do actually answer you back. Those of you that have like sent back replies, you know that you're getting a reply back, and that's not a bot. It's really me. I don't have that many people that I interact with, so I do actually text you back, and I would love to know, even if you just want to start being honest with just one person, and you can totally share with me, it's a safe space, what you know you need to break through in order to develop these kind of friendships. I would truly love to hear from you. So you can text me the word mentor to the number in the show notes, and I cannot wait to hear what you got out of this episode and what you are committed to breaking through or doing differently so that you can have the kind of friendships and relationships with other women that you truly deserve. Because you know what we say, you are not meant to do business or life alone.